I am so, so, so excited to welcome Jen Todd today. And she is the co-founder of Evolve, a app that I have had the pleasure of becoming involved with. And I'm going to let her talk all about that and introduce herself before we get going and learn more about Jen and her fierce conversation that she wants to share with us today. So Jen, welcome. And
Thank
thank you so much for making the time. Why don't you introduce yourself to all the ladies of Essentially Woo? And of course, later on, this is going to go out to the public and they'll learn all about you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I was lucky enough to meet Monique, I think through sort of our network, she came to Evolve and very grateful for that. And I think that's how this Evolve community has started. Essentially, that's what it is. It's a group of incredible leaders in the space of wellness that are supporting those on the path of personal transformation. And we're now close to 80 wellness leaders. Yeah, it's awesome. Half of us are in Miami, and the others are in 9 different countries. And what I really love about our community is it's like everything, like pendulum reading, astrology, vibrational healing, the sky is the limit. And I think that's part of the beauty is that we really do want that. Like we invite that in because it's been part of my healing journey and my partner's healing journey. We've both kind of taken that route and leaned on others through the human connection to transform. So that is where I am now and kind of happy that I'm working aligned with my purpose.
I love it, Jen. And yeah, it's been such a joy being a part of Evolve. And I've been a part of other, communities like this, but yours just feels so I have to say raw and real are the words. It's the connections are there. I've had the pleasure of taking some of the classes of the other facilitators and know a few of the leaders who are a part, and they're just all beautiful people and have such incredible gifts and talents to share. And I also feel in just this short period of time that I've been a part of Evolve that we really are evolving together. It's a super, super supportive group, and everybody wants each other to keep growing and transforming. And so thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. And I can't wait to see how it continues to grow. And before we move on, I'm curious, what is your ultimate vision for Evolve? Like, where do you see it ultimately?
Sure. It's like one of my favorite questions.
Oh, good.
I spend a lot of time in that like ethereal space. So really what came to us like a year and a half ago was this idea of a community of communities.
Mm,
And we're actually now just starting to write down the specs for the development piece because what's awesome, like you said, it's like it's raw, it's real, there's cool connections. But what we're starting to see is there's like trends of communities and where leaders are bringing in other leaders, like maybe it's like an astrologist group, or it's a, Miami healers, or, Australian, family constellation expert.
okay.
And we'd be surprised, like each community, they don't necessarily have a home, right? Because
Right.
it's like just naturally occurring community. So meaning they don't have a physical location or an online website. It just happened. And so what we're thinking of for this like next phase, I think with Evolve, we could probably hit 100 and stay connected to each other, meaning we know what everyone does and we don't lose sight of that. But I
Right.
think if we were to grow beyond that, it's like that is the way to go, meaning we would have community leaders who step in and bring leaders into their community. And then that all falls under the big umbrella of Evolve. And then from like a client or member perspective, someone seeking knowledge or transformation, they would be able to navigate like, oh, cool. Like what, here's 30 family constellation, like there's a whole
Wow.
community if that's what you're seeking. So that's one thing, and then that's happening. Like it's already starting. The real like who knows when vision. I have seen quite a bit of the connections with the Web3 space. I helped launch a cryptocurrency token like 5 years ago. I work with a fund. Actually, one of our investors is a crypto fund, a friend of mine. He's our blockchain advisor. So this idea in the future of rewards tokens to start, just like in the platform, but using blockchain technology
Right.
to get us going. Also the potential of like an NFT membership for access to like the cool events.
Right.
We noticed recently with a lot of activations here in Miami that at these events, you're actually like, if you had the Evolve NFT, you could get into like this retreat or this cool thing at the hotel. And
Wow.
I saw it happening. So I would love to kind of be a pioneer in the wellness space on that front at some point.
Oh my gosh, I just got chills. It's so exciting. Exciting for me because I tell you, I know I'm not the only one. It's been a little bit slow for me to kind of come into like understanding how the world is changing, right? With blockchain, NFT, crypto, all of this. And so to be a part of a family that I could just kind of tag along and learn all of it and kind of play, oh my gosh, it just takes off a lot of pressure. You
That's
know?
awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah, we learn together.
yeah, absolutely. Well, incredible. I'm really excited to see. I've already seen it. I've already seen the growth of Evolve, in just the tiny amount of time that I've been a part of it, and do continue to look forward to continue playing with you guys and just expanding at least what I've been doing there so far. It will be one of my goals this year coming up. So as these conversations that we have here are really about tapping into the strength and the courage of women in particular, in that space of there's something inside of me that is developing. There's a voice inside of me that wants to say something, that wants to do something, that is tired of sitting still and needs to shake things up. And sometimes it could take months, weeks, years to listen to that voice, tap into it, and even do something about it. But once we do, it's almost like we have broken out of some sort of a cave that we've been in, even though the world hasn't seen it, right? It's only been felt inside of us. And so these conversations are that about, sharing with the world, I'm just like you, we're like each other, we're doing life. And yet we all have these fierce moments that allow us to step into another aspect, a higher aspect of who we are, a deeper sense of strength that we never thought that we had, that almost makes life before that fierce moment very different than after. And so with that in mind, I would love for you to share either something recent or in the past, a fierce moment for you. And if you can talk us through that, that would be amazing.
Sure. I love it. I think, it's funny. I was reflecting on this just before the call, and the fierce moment is kind of twofold, but along the same theme. So just as, 3 years ago when the pandemic was arriving, I had 7 clients. So I've always been very supportive. That's been my role, like supporting clients, supporting bosses, supporting husbands. And so what happened was, one of my clients was a meditation studio, incredible team. The owner was fascinating and fabulous, and he's still one of my very good friends. And we decided, we had to shut down the studio. It just wasn't sustainable. The city asked us to close the doors. And like, I'd always wanted to start a business, that wasn't a business that was helping other businesses necessarily, like start really, my own. And it came from that. And it was interesting because I was like, I'm going to start an app. And I shared it with my co-founder Irina, she was my coach in an awareness coaching session. She's like, let's go. And then I shared the idea with my friend who has a startup, and he has a tech team, and he's like, my team can help you build it. So it was like fully supported. And even with that full support, I was still scared, right? I was like,
Right.
I've always been like the assistant or the wife or the this or the that. Like, I don't know about this. But, it was like having that. I think the folks like there by my side made it a lot easier. So I was like, yes, let's go. Like, what do we have to lose? Let's just give it a go. Not knowing what a massive like project it would be. And so then fierce moment part two, I guess, is, fast forward 2.5 years from that, have a working platform, have a, beautiful team of leaders that now I'm like, we kind of have the foundation built. It took a while, but now it's that time. Like, okay, are we ready to do another 2.5 years to get this community and this platform out to the world? Because that's what has to be done next. And, you look back and you're like, okay, like the financial situation isn't as lovely as it could be, right? I do work quite a bit. Family understands, friends understand, but it's gotten to a space where I have actually my friendships are all evolve related. So it's
Kind of
that's it.
smart. Kind of smart,
That's
Jen.
it's like that's it. And thankfully, they're all incredible humans and mindful and healers, so it works in
Right.
my favor. But I kind of am working all the time. And so I had to make that choice not long ago. Like, can I kind of be the driver of this, pull the weight? Because it's like this is that inflection point, right? Are we going to push for the next 2.5 years to build out these communities, build out the product, get it to a point where it's sustainable, so that we can carry on? And what's funny is one of my mentor's advisors, we had a week and a half where it was like, no, we're not going to make it. I'm going to have to shut it down. No, we're going to carry on. No. And, that was that, telling myself probably I'm not able to, can't do that. I can't. And
Right.
so then he actually supported me with this process, which I think is cool for the folks to listen about, this Bushito, which is live life boldly. So like, what
Mm,
like 10 things have to happen for you to carry on with Evolve? And I was like, this all needs to happen. And we made it happen.
right.
Like, I don't know how, but in a week, like we got all of those blockers removed. And so then that was the point where I was like, okay, like it's not even me saying, it's like everything is clearing, for Evolve to carry on. And I just had to be the one to be like, okay, it's on. Like, let's go.
Fine.
Mhm.
Okay, so someone's joining us, and I see some likes here. Let me know who's here. I'm excited to see who's joining us today. I love this story so much for so many reasons. I just gave a talk over the weekend at an event, and I was talking about the gift of fear. That we, a lot of times, when fear shows up, we want to run for the hills, but really it's the fear that, in my opinion, that is the marker of, it's time. If you really want to do this, if this is something you really want, then you got to listen to the fear and push forward, because it's a signal that you're about to grow, right? That you're about to make it over that little hill that's going to take you to the next plateau, or the inflection point, as you stated. So fear is one of those things that holds us back from making that fierce decision, in
Mhm.
that moment, to trust yourself. And the second thing that I heard, which we all talk about all the time, but actually removing those barriers of the limiting beliefs is
Mhm.
not an easy thing to do. It takes like bold commitment to ourselves and to our self-belief that we're capable, that with hard work we can do it. And thirdly, I got a supportive team. I've got people behind me believing in me, that are going to catch me if I fall. But if I don't try it, how am
Mhm.
I going to feel? Is the feeling of regret going to be more painful than the feeling of actually going for it and failing, right?
Yeah.
So, ooh, it's so incredible. I want to share, because so many of us are parents, and I mean, my children are like my biggest passion, and they're older now. So I get to see them struggling with decisions, struggling with their own limiting beliefs. And my son is, he's going to be 24, I think, in a month. And um, living on his own, following his passion. He's an audio producer. electronic music DJ. So he, he makes his own music, he performs, and he just quit his job to concentrate only on his music, for a certain period of time, to give himself the opportunity to actually try to go for his dream before he decides he wants to do something else, which is bold enough in and of itself. But just a couple of weeks ago, he's like, Mom, I make these goals and I get disappointed when I don't reach them. And so I'm really focused on being committed. And when I make a decision and I say, I'm going to commit to it, then I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. And the goal was to reach 5,000, followers or likes on TikTok. And so he called me actually this morning, just 10
Mhm.
minutes before our call. And he's like, Mom, I did it. I reached 5,000. And I'm like, yes, so, but I hear all of those themes in your story. It's like, I've got
Mhm.
the limiting beliefs, before I supported everybody, do I have the wherewithal to
Mhm.
actually do this and push through and get past this inflection point, and how bad do I want it? And it sounds like you had an amazing mentor who just really supported
Mhm.
you and like, let's get all these barriers out of the way and push through.
Mhm.
So, oh, what a great story. I love
Yeah,
it.
awesome to hear about your son. And I know how he feels because I feel like these goals, when you don't hit them, is just like blah, 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 blah. So good
Yeah.
for him. Good.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of, I think it also speaks to, let's not get into the habit of just setting a whole bunch of goals that really don't
Exactly.
matter. Like, what are the goals that really matter? And I feel it when you talk about it. Like, this is not just any old little business. Like, this is your life's passion here. And so if there's any goal to have, this is the one, right? This is the one to kind of hit. Um, so all right. So we talked about the fierce conversation, and you've got this massive vision. Like, let's talk about who you were before Evolve and who you are now. Like, it seems to me that just in launching this business, you're probably a completely different person. You're like doing things you never thought you would do, employing skills, have new like talents that you're working, and maybe even a new sense of just belief. And I know that awareness has been a big part of your journey. So who was Jen before and who is Jen now after these fierce decisions?
Sure. That's awesome. Um, I think this is probably the first time that I've been really aligned with like me, like what I want to like do, create, leave here. And so that makes like a huge difference. Like I have always been a very hard worker, meaning like the number of hours I put into the day, I guess you'd say, but it wasn't always in alignment with like how I wanted to help and support the world and the planet. And so that just makes a huge difference. It's not, it's interesting. Like this week, somehow leaders are finding out about Evolve through other friends and they're coming in. That to me is just like boom, because if I can even help them, reach one or two more people, like,
Right.
and they change their lives, or what I think is really interesting is a lot of the leaders are helping to support me, and so Evolve is essentially a product of the leaders supporting me as like the vessel or container so that
Yes,
I can carry on, so that Evolve can carry on, if that makes sense. And
totally.
so it's just like the oddest thing. It's like this human experiment that if it's done correctly, it can actually, not only help me, but help so many others.
Yeah.
And I naturally feel um, quite a lot that the people that are gravitating towards Evolve, they see that and they want it to work, and so they're doing all that they can to help. And like that I've never seen in a business, like people just showing up, like what, like you're willing to do what, and that just makes me very happy and fulfilled. So it was it was really interesting for me when I've asked myself, like, what do I do to carry on? And the answer was essentially like, you just have to, because I was shown like the suffering, the pain, the depression, the anxiety, like what's happening in this world. And, when you ask about me, years ago, I went through like a really challenging period of like 2 years, and I did not have these skills. And I was like, girls, like I have two daughters. I was like, I'll just be in the bedroom. Like you just like, they're like 5 years old. I'm like, you got it. And I didn't, I had, I knew about meditation and mindfulness and awareness, but I wasn't practicing. And so, I just feel like if I was faced with kind of those challenging times again, it would be a whole different story.
Completely. Wow, that's incredible. And that's a scary moment, I think, for moms in general,
Yeah.
because most moms, right? I know things are changing, and I love seeing the evolution of fathers and how they also are tired of the stereotype of the typical man, right?
Right.
Who just wants to work and make money and support. And yes, they can, and they want to be close to their children. They want to be home. They want to be a part of helping their children evolve as little humans.
Mhm.
And so all of that is changing, but for many, many years, there has been that stigma of, the mom is the one who has to figure out how to fill her bucket in those moments of, I don't feel strong. I don't feel like I can handle, my children, and I need time and space, to figure out how to feel better so I can show up stronger for my kids. And
Mhm.
sometimes that means, kids, you got to take care of yourself while mommy figures out how to take care of
Exactly.
herself. But that's a scary thing for a lot of mothers, to go through. Talking about self-care and balance, because I know you brought that up earlier. how have how have you tackled that? Obviously, you're a busy woman. You're building out an incredible company, working lots of hours. It sounds like now you have practices that have really supported you, and that I'm assuming you do, like, on a regular basis. What are your practices? What are your rituals that you have come to learn have just made an incredible difference for you in running your life, running your business?
Mhm. Um, I think I lean on our leaders a lot. So I'm, grateful I receive tools from them. So one thing that I lean on tremendously is like audios, hypnotherapy audios from Lauren Romero. They're incredible. Like now that I understand the subconscious and like most of our decisions are made there, I'm like, if I have 20 minutes, that's like my go-to. Um, I also now I work using binaural beats. So like Alpha,
Yeah.
um, another leader, Mila, has a platform called You Tune In. So like those are my, clear my mind moments. My meditation practice is like, like it's interesting. Like my husband, sometimes I'll just be sitting there and he's like, what are you doing? Because it hasn't become like this like morning ritual. And that's on the agenda to make it so, but it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So what I kind of supplement with is I go to a lot of like virtual events or in-person events. Like this weekend, I when I saw you, I did a yoga class, I did 3 meditations, and I was like, boom, like filled it all in. Like that's good for the week. So I don't think I'm your typical like meditator, but I manage.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's part like why I'm in this role, because if I was like in finance, like I wouldn't be pulled to a meditation. So
No, no, although I tell you, I think that's an incredible market. A lot
yeah,
of most of my career, well, let me not say that. I have a career clearly, but in, working in
or
corporate, was dealing with a lot of accountants,
nice.
bankers, attorneys, and boy, oh boy, are they really like needing and
One,
wanting and utilizing
exactly.
a lot of these tools. I feel like I know a lot of people in that industry who are like probably the best meditators, because they
Wow.
realize that without it, they just if there were one thing, like that was the one thing that kind of saved them, from,
Oh,
um,
that's awesome to hear. Mhm.
yeah. So I think, hint, hint, that there's a big market, that
Exactly.
you can tap into with Evolve. But, um, I also feel that the great thing about life today and the culture today and all of the practitioners and the different tools is that we don't have to just do one thing, and we don't have to do one thing consistently.
Right.
It's more about like, let me feel into the moment. Like, what do I need right now? Do I need to go outside and ground myself and put the sun on my face? Do I need
Mhm.
to, actually sit in meditation and be guided? Or do I just need binaural beats,
Mhm.
or a tub with salt?
Exactly.
Or, like giving ourselves permissions to actually not be so specific about how we
Right.
operate, because I feel like that's what we've been taught all of our lives is you
Right.
got to do this and you got to stay structured. And if you don't check these things off, then it's not going to work. And so learning how to just be kind to ourselves and give ourselves a break and just really feel into the
Mhm.
moment, like what we need. So yeah, you have my permission, Jen, to like
Thank you, Monique. Thank you. I appreciate that.
keep
Yeah,
doing
like
keep
when
doing
we
what you're
practice
doing.
together with like the reading and the cards, I mean, that to me is amazing, right? It's like a chance to reflect, like,
Yeah.
right? Like what's showing up and how does that feel? And then having the chance to interact. I mean, that can go a long way.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of my a quick anecdote because it helped me a lot when I first started my more recent journey with Irina as my awareness coach. She asked me to write a list of 50 things that made me happy. And I referred to that for a couple of months, right? Because it was that. It was like candles, bubble bath, palm trees. And like, okay, if you like bubble baths, why don't you have any bubble bath in your house? Like, why don't you have the liquid, you know? And I was
Yes.
like, oh, because they're not very organic and I don't want to sit in Mr. Bubble and then Irina's like, Jen, like go to Whole Foods. There's like a million of them. So it's like not, allowing yourself to surround yourself by those things that make you happy, whether they're your practices or like physical objects. I think
And
that's
no
a good,
excuses either, right? Because
exactly.
I think
That's what
that
we do. Mm-hmm.
yes, we're busy, we're overwhelmed, but sometimes it's that one little small step, like, oh, today I'm just going to go to Whole Foods and get the natural bubble bath. And you're like, wow, I did it. I did something for
Exactly.
myself. That's
Exactly.
great. The 50, I'm going to remember that. The list of
Yeah.
50 things that make you happy. That's a list we should all have and like kind of look at
Yes, exactly.
every day. Amazing. So I know that so many of the women who are going to listen in on this have that bug for becoming an entrepreneur. Um, looking at the journey so far, how it started, where you are today, where you're taking it, what do you think the biggest lessons have been? And also, um, if there's like specific advice, that you think would be helpful for someone who has like a big dream and they really want to make it happen, but they're going to hit maybe some barriers that they may not even know about. Um, what comes to mind for you, Jen, as far as advice?
Sure. Um, so one thing, my mentor, Steve Cantor, he's the one that's been helping me recently. He has this exercise where you write down your Bushito, and your Bushito is essentially like what, your purpose or what drives you. And then even before like starting on your business, like see if you can pull up your Bushido and if it's aligned with your business idea, because that will carry your business like through any obstacles. Like he actually chose to work with me because I had no idea but he uncovered my Bushido and found it was aligned with Evolve. And I think that helps with that persistency, right? Like I can't let
Yeah.
it go. Like I can't because it's aligned with what I feel I'm here to do. So that's like one thing. I think the other thing is relationships. I encourage a lot of our interns, like interns I've worked with through the years, like get on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
like stay in touch with like all of these people, mentors, advisors, people you help, people that help you, like because that one day you don't know who you're going to call on, like evolve. I am so grateful. Like we have advisors, one gentleman I met 20 years ago when I first moved to Miami, and he's an incredible business strategist and eminent merger and acquisition guy. I mean, he's just been next level supportive. So you don't know. And so then there's that whole, it's kind of a bigger picture,
yeah,
but that adding to people's lives along your way. So one day when you have that big idea, like people are willing to support because you're gonna need it.
you're gonna,
You're gonna
yeah,
need that help. And then I guess the third thing is like I didn't do this like from a technology standpoint. We kind of just like went for it. And it was a lot. So find someone who's done something similar as far as like the product. Like, so if you're a coach, find another coach and you like their system and their process. Because a lot of any business is figuring out like your tech stack.
yeah,
So whether you're like, an app or this, or just a simple, one person show, you're still going to need like 5 or 10 different solutions.
yeah,
So talk to someone about that because that can set you back or really pull you forward.
yeah.
Um, and I'm happy to talk to anyone because I've almost used every single possible scenario. Yeah.
I
So
was gonna say, you're probably like so tech savvy now that that is like you can make a ton of money just consulting.
yeah, right. Yeah, it's funny. Never thought this would
Yeah, there's
happen.
another line of business for you, on the side, Jen. That's amazing. Yeah, I have to say because I share this a lot with other women who want to be entrepreneurs and are so eager. And it may not be the right time, right? Like I do believe in divine timing. I remember back in 2008, I had an incredible career. I was exactly where I wanted to be, got there. And then I was like, now that I'm here, I'm like, I don't think this is my purpose. So I started uncovering my purpose and ultimately really wanted to become an entrepreneur back then, like around 2010. And it just wasn't the right time. It didn't happen until 2016 and looking for many, many reasons. But looking back at when I did it, I was like, thank God it happened when it did, because I needed all of those years of building those
Exactly.
relationships with people who trust me, who love me, who today, when I look at my clientele, it's all
Mm.
those individuals
Aw.
who have known me, from my previous work, who, send me referrals, hire me for corporate work, or hire me for, coaching or healing or whatever. But it's because they trust me. Right.
Right.
And so sometimes the bigger picture is it's not the right time. Start to figure out, and I love what
Right.
you said, align with your Bushido. Now, Bushido comes from what? Do you know what the
Oh, I always get it wrong. It's like a Japanese
Japanese?
samurai.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And Steve, I think he might have it. He has a profile on Evolve, and I think he might explain it a little bit there.
Okay,
Maybe
I
Steve
will
can.
check him out. I love
Yeah.
that. And
Uh-huh.
so your Bushido is to help cut down suffering and increase happiness for others.
Right.
Yeah. And that drives you every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so we've talked about a lot, but I want to kind of, before we close, I want you to share a little bit more about your recent, um, journey with psychedelics, and whatever you're willing to share about it. I love the 3 C's that you shared with me. Um, I know that psychedelics is, it's back, it's coming, it's becoming more normalized. It's, the stigma around it is changing. And I know from just speaking to others, I have not experienced psychedelics yet. It is on my list to do safely and with the right, with the right people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I would love to hear your journey. And I'm sure so many of the individuals who hear this, who are in the same boat, just wanting to explore it and understand it a little bit better. What have you learned and what was that experience like for you?
Sure. No, I love to share. It's become one of my favorite topics lately. So what's, I guess just I'll tell you a quick like backstory so you know how we came to this place. So about a year ago, Irina, my co-founder, started coaching with Mind Bloom, which is a ketamine telehealth company run out of New York, where they have the clients in their home, and Irina was coaching them remotely. And so it got me really interested into this new like resurgence of psychedelics. We did a couple of informational Zoom sessions for the members. So I learned, and then I dug deeper and dug deeper. And, for me personally, it was like, okay, like got it. Intention setting, set and setting, like where, like you said, where am I going to be? Who am I going to be with? And then this integration is really everything. It's like, the prep, it's the reflection afterwards, and then it's also integrating whatever insights and comes up right during your session. And so that to me was all new, but I dove in because we were writing programming, putting a new website together. Like I was like, whoa. And I think I was partly whoa because I moved to Miami by myself. I just jumped in my car in my mid-20s and knew nobody. My first friends here were like big partiers, and I was like, okay, this looks like fun. Like, we do this in DC, but let's give it a whirl. So, I knew psychedelics from that, weekend life
Yeah.
as a young person. And I was like, I did not set any intentions. I did not integrate anything. Like, what are we talking about? But then I was kind of happy because I was like, maybe there was something there with the neural pathways. Like maybe I was doing some work without knowing it. And so, fast forward to 20 years later, and I'm like, okay, let's set an intention. Like, whoa, this is interesting. And so I went through a series of three psilocybin journeys. The first one, my intention, I'd been, startup founder working so much, like hadn't connected with husband, friends in a long time. And so I was like, okay, this, today is the day we're going to connect, and it's all about connection. And it turned out like someone was stuck on the boat, someone was in traffic. So it was, it came down to like, it was pretty much like, okay, I'm here. I am here. And this is what's happening. And the message that came to me was, you do not need to connect with other people. You need to connect with yourself. And I was like, whoa, that's okay. Like I've heard that before, but I definitely heard it in a much stronger light.
Yeah.
And so, spent time integrating that. And then the following one, I did work on that, like connect with myself more through practice, through just like awareness of thoughts, feelings. The next one, my ask was, what do I do with Evolve? Like, I know my purpose, but like day to day, like what am I doing? Like there's so many things, like like your business, you're like, where do I put my energy?
Exactly.
And so the answer that came to me was connect the connected. So, at that point I felt like I had connected, and I was aware of what that felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to quickly identify that in other people, like meaning like, okay, they're here too. So
Yes.
how do we connect everyone? And in a way, then it's like tapping into like this universal wisdom through those who are connected. And so that's like my mission. And when I feel like I'm being really distracted from that, I'm not as like content because I
Yeah.
know what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's sort of like my strength anyway. I'm good at connecting people, like and ideas. So that was cool. And then the final one, I was like, oh my gosh, like, we've raised money for the startup. We've run out of money. What do we do? Like, how do I carry on? And the cool message that it was like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
you need to carry on. It's not about the money, the no money, that you're carrying on because it wasn't as pleasant of an experience, but I did like see and feel like pain of others. And
Wow.
so that, was intense. Like, and I'm still like integrating that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my time there, and that's partly why I'm like, okay, like we gotta just carry on.
Yeah.
Um, so
Wow.
it's been cool though, and I'm a big proponent of, for certain, situations and when people feel called, I think, and with the right support,
Yeah.
human connection, they can really have breakthroughs. And I think that's great because it's just, sometimes we get stuck.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can't go through life without getting stuck. And as I said, some people get stuck and stay stuck for a very, very long time, and they just don't know how to get outside of it and how to find the resources. So it just that in and of itself is, Evolve is such a great resource, right? To just kind of scan the app and look and see who's in there and what they're offering, because there's definitely a solution or a way to at least step into something that can help get you unstuck.
Mhm.
Um, so for people who want to try their first journey with psychedelics, what's your recommendation?
Jamaica. Jamaica.
Jamaica.
No, I spent a lot of hours researching the legality.
Hmm.
And I know, I follow what's happening in the US with Oregon coming up, like starting with the decriminalization, followed by Colorado. There's still, it's not like as easy to like get into those systems yet. But I think it's coming pretty quickly. So, but outside of the US, Jamaica, I learned through this company called Beckley Retreats. They're very well known. Amanda Fielding is like kind of at the forefront of that. She's was part of the original, psychedelic movement, and she's in her 80s and sees the
Wow.
retreats. Yeah, she started this Beckley Retreats with, I believe, her son and a couple of others to set up psilocybin retreats in Jamaica and the Netherlands. So where people can relax freely, and go through their journey in a really safe, beautiful setting. I think that's nice. It's not always within reach, as far as like time, funds, travel. So the other option is to go through clinical trials in the US. I learned that there's a trial here in Fort Lauderdale with Siegel Trials, and they are accepting clients, patients. So that's always an option. And I have not experienced ayahuasca, but I do know that, Costa Rica is a great legal setting to experience that. So I think there are ways, and it's always like you said, it's like divine timing, like when it's the time. But I think the coolest part is educating ourselves and connecting with others that either like they might just be curious, like
Right.
interested. We started this psychedelic mastermind group to connect people who are either curious about psychedelics, have experienced and want to share their stories, or just like want to understand and follow like the legality. We bring in
Right.
speakers that are attorneys or people that understand the indigenous culture and can share that. So I think a lot of it, like, no need to act, like there's always like education. And I think, within a couple of years is going to be the norm here in the US, with MDMA coming out and psilocybin soon after is the track that we hear about. But with that comes that need for the coaching support. And I think that's where like my mission, connect the connected, like find more leaders that are able to hold space, because I think, it needs to be very accessible and available to people. Otherwise, they could go on journeys and not integrate properly. And then it's like you're backtracking almost,
Yeah.
is like, where did that get me? So that's, a big thing that I'd like to, it's like the integration is even more important than the actual
Absolutely.
journey.
Yeah, I
So
agree. Yeah.
and I think and then that integration goes into all the modalities, like relationship coaching,
Yep.
spirit reading, like, transformational coaching, everything, hypnotherapy.
Yeah,
And so
depending upon what shows up, right? What shows up for you
exactly.
in your journey. And yeah, I couldn't agree more that the integration is really where it's at to really get the most out of those um, experiences and what shows up for you to actually take the next step, right? Whatever that is, to continue the learning and make the changes. which
Yeah.
is that's what we're really looking for, right? Is how to continue
Right.
to evolve and not stay stuck, not, look back at
Mhm.
our lives and say, gosh, there was so much I wanted to do, so much I wanted to be. And I just haven't been able to like step into my power, so to speak, and um, meet the people who are going to support me, take the steps that are going to help me, and so on and so forth. This has been so much fun, and I really value this conversation because obviously we've gotten to know each other and we're still getting to know
Mhm.
each other even deeper. So now I feel like I know you so much better than I did
Aw.
before, and I love it. I just love hearing your mission, and I can see the connection, the deep purpose of Evolve. So for those of you who have not heard of Evolve, I know that I've shared a lot in the group about it, but evolve.com is a great place to get started, right? And download the app from the App Store. Jen, anything else you want to say about connecting with Evolve?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess you can find us in the App Store if you search for Evolve Wellness. We're kind of still in like covert mission mode, I decided. And our website is 8 like infinity8evolve.com. And I think that's the best way. And when I see folks come in, I generally reach out and welcome them, see if there's a way I can help. But I'm Jen, Jen at 8evolve.com. Happy to speak with anyone and help guide them or connect just for fun. See where it goes.
Yay!
Thank you.
Okay, so one last thing before we wrap up. You can
Sure.
either share like an amazing book you're reading,
Hmm.
or if you have like just a final, piece of advice or words of wisdom to any woman who is just like ready to, make a fierce decision. What would you share with them?
Mm, that's good. Um, I think what shows up for me when you ask that, Paul Solitsky, one of our leaders who was the owner of Energy Meditation, he always said, like, slow it down to speed it up. And I think that's a nice reminder for us in this day and age. Like, I've had, investors, advisors, like, it's been 2 years. Like, what's happening? Like, why don't you have? And I'm like, you know what? Like, my daughter said, actually, talk about whys. She's like, Mom, you're like 40 something. She's like, you'll probably live to like 90 or 100. So, like, what's the rush?
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, whoa, right?
Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
that's
And so,
amazing.
like, if I like what I'm doing, like, why, so I think give ourselves that space to be okay with the timing, because
Yeah.
I think, like you mentioned, it's not always up to us. So,
No, yeah. And I think a lot of what I've seen and including in my own journey, right? Everything I talk about are things that I have been through, that I've cultivated the awareness around. And um, I think what many of us lack is not only the trust in ourselves, that we're listening to what we really need and know about ourselves, but also just the trust in divine and in spirit, and that we're fully supported, and what's ours is ours, and it will come when it needs to come, and we just have to,
yeah.
kind of welcome it. And so go slow to go fast, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mary Beth, one of our leaders, she says, Jen, you're not in the driver's seat.
Right.
Like, wow. Got
Step
it.
back, step back.
Got it.
I'll share one final quick story before we
Please.
wrap up, and I think you'll enjoy it as well, because everyone here knows that I'm a big proponent of like signs and symbols and playing with the
Yes.
universe, and I always get lots of signs and symbols. And so um, I turned 50, this
Ah,
year,
great.
and thank you. And I was like, gosh, I want to do something special for my 50th. And, COVID was just kind of like, we were like letting up of all that fear and opening up to the world. And I'm a big Abraham Hicks follower for
Oh,
years and years
yeah.
now. And I had been listening, to Esther Hicks quite a bit during COVID, because it just kept me inspired and motivated and trusting more than anything, trusting in the divine and in timing. And so one day I was listening to a video and I'm like, you know what? I wonder if she's doing any events. So I looked online, and lo and behold, what popped up was 7-day Caribbean cruise leaving out of Fort Lauderdale, March 5th, the day before my birthday. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
So, okay, divine timing, boom, here's the sign you need. Long story short, ended up going on the cruise with a dear friend of mine. And I told myself, whether I get up on stage with her or not, it doesn't matter to me. I know that I'm going to get what I need, because one of the things that I've learned to believe truly and trust in is you're always at the right place at the right time. She says it
Right.
over and over and over again. And so we had 4 days with her. I did not get up on stage. I got the information I needed for myself. My questions were answered. But, we take a tour in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we're on this tour and we're like so tired and we're starving. And so we decide to like leave the tour. And I told my friend, pick the restaurant. So she looked online. She's like, okay, let's go to this restaurant. We go to the restaurant. And when I walk in, I see this super long table and there's a man sitting there. And I'm like, I just got this feeling like I feel like I know that man. There's something similar about the man, but I was so hungry, I forgot about it. We sat down, we ate. There was a Puerto Rican, flag on the wall, and my friend was born in Puerto Rico. So I said, hey, let me take a picture of you with the
Uh-huh.
Puerto Rican flag behind you. Boom, it's done. We leave, get back on the cruise. Last day of the cruise, we're sharing photos with each other. And for whatever reason, that photo, I felt like I needed to enlarge it.
Uh-huh.
I enlarge it. And who do you think is sitting at the table? Esther Hicks.
Esther, right there.
Right place, right time. I was
Wow.
like, okay, thank you, universe. You're just like giving
That's
me the message.
awesome.
Yeah. And so for me, I walked away with that knowing, for me, what she said to me is like, I'm always with you. You don't need to be on stage.
Uh,
Like, you're going to get what you need. What's yours is coming
exactly.
to you. And it just kind of like closed the loop on that whole trip. So anyways, for those of you out there who are always wondering, when is it my time? When is it
Mhm.
coming? When is the shift going to happen? My suggestion is take the steps, the small little steps, and then trust that the
Mhm.
universe is going to do the rest.
Exactly.
And yeah, and then we can take a big deep breath. So
Love
Jen,
it.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. That was
Oh,
so
this is awesome. So
appreciate it.
oh, you're so welcome. And so for everybody else, we will see you soon. Another episode of Fierce Conversations, I should say, will be coming out in the new year. And just happy holidays, everybody. It's that time to just kind of like take a step back and take a break and enjoy family, enjoy each other, enjoy yourself, connecting with
Mhm.
yourself. And we'll see you in 2023. All right. Goodbye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.